You are now entering a techie zone.
Well, it's time for yet another unboxing video. Welcome back into the mind of the techies world. And today we're going to be unboxing something that's a little large. This box contains not one, but two PowerBook G4 titaniums. And I won this off of eBay. I was the only bidder on this auction, and I won it fairly cheaply. And the story behind this is one of them is functioning, one of them is not. And I really took a gamble on this, but I think it's going to be worth the gamble. We'll see. And I didn't pay a whole lot for this. Actually, the titanium PowerBooks sell for a bit more than what I paid for this. And in this box is supposed to be the two PowerBooks, two power supplies, the manual for one of them, and a case. I don't really care about the case. I have one, but so we're continuing this evolution of computers that I don't need. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into this, and we'll take a first look at the machine. So what we'll do is we'll get into the box. Have myself a nice Ginsu knife here, as always. You know, we use Ginsu knives here at the Techies World House. So let's go ahead and get into this. I can't really set the tripod up because I don't have an upright tripod. I have a desk tripod. So we're going to do the best we can here, just by me holding the camera. So why did I buy this machine, or these machines? I really don't know. I really don't need these, but I bought it anyway. Got it for a great price, so hopefully this won't be a problem here. I'm trying to do it neatly here. Hold on here. Okay, opening the right side required two hands, but hopefully we'll be able to do this with one hand. Now, it would go a lot better if I had a tripod, but I used to, but I don't anymore. Trying to be careful because I don't want to poke anything that's in here. Probably go a lot better if I had probably scissors, probably. Come on, almost there. Come on. There we are. So now we should be able to just, oh, I can just pull that tape off. Is that a problem? Alrighty, let's, hold on, wait a minute here. Ah, there we go. Alright, now I think we're going to be in it. Okay, here we go. So inside of here we have quite a bit of bubble wrap. The seller obviously packed it nice. Actually, that's airbags, airspeed, inflatable packaging. Woo! So we've got those. Just throw those on the floor for a moment. Got all these. Got layers of bubble wrap. So obviously the seller did pack these properly. Oh, I see what the seller did. They put it in the bag. Okay. That's safe transportation. Okay, I like that. So I'll just lift the bag. Oh, goodness gracious. This thing's heavy. It's a Targus bag. Yeah, how do you like that? Targus. Targus, I think, is one of the makers of high-end computer bags here. Hold on here. I'm going to get the bubble wrap off the bag. So obviously the seller did pack this in a good way, bubble wrap and airbags, and by putting it in the actual bag itself, that at least somewhat makes it a bit better. And there should be nothing else in here. Nothing. So we'll throw the box onto the floor, and we'll go ahead and get into the bag. Okay, so here we are with the Targus laptop bag that came in that box. So let's go ahead and unzip this and see what lurks inside. Feel the suspense. Let's see what we've got in here. Aha! Okay, I see something. They have to lie it down. Okay, here we go. Here we have the two PowerBooks. I'm not really a fan of that. They put them one on top of each other. Can you see that? Not a big fan of that, but hopefully they're alright. I can't tell which one is working and which one's not yet. I don't think the seller labeled them, but that's alright, we'll figure that out. So in this bag we have one of the PowerBooks, and this one is in pretty good condition. You can see the top. The top isn't even scratched on this one. Normally these things are usually all scratched up. Oh, look at that. This one doesn't even have paint rubbed off the hinges here. So this was obviously well taken care of. Do you like that? We'll look at that in a little bit more detail. And then here comes the other one. And this one looks to be in the exact same shape. Little scratch right there. But all in all, it's not too bad. Again, paint isn't worn off the hinges. It's a common problem with the it's a big common problem with this generation of PowerBook, is that the paint would chip off from the screen hinges, but there doesn't seem to be any. Alright, so we'll just set these down gently like a baby, and let's see if we can find the power supplies. Let's see, I believe they come with the oh, wait a minute, here's the manual. Getting started with your PowerBook G4. It's the owner's manual for the titanium PowerBook. Doesn't come with a box. As a tech collector, you know, it's always a good idea to try to buy vintage stuff with the box, but I don't know, maybe I can find a box later on and maybe I'll pick it up. But anyway, there's the manual. So that was in here. So the power supplies must be in the back. So let's zip this up. Let's zip this up here. Best I can with one hand. Okay. So we zip that up so it doesn't flop all over. So the power supplies must be back here. So let's see. Where would they be? Not in there, so they must be in the zipped part. It's kind of like finding treasure, isn't it? Ah, here we go. Here's something I also forgot. It also comes with that phone cord. If you watched the unboxing of the iBook G4, which I have placed here underneath in this tray because I needed room up on the desk, but if you watch the unboxing video of that, I also showed the phone cord supplied with that. So that's something that'll never get used. And I see the cord for the power supply. These should be the yo-yo, and it is the yo-yo power supply. Let's see, this is the PowerBook G4 connector that also works with the iBook G3 and G4 series. It's a little bit different than the one that goes to the clamshell iBook. The one that goes to the clamshell iBook is a little bit bigger at the end. So they modified the yo-yo power adapter to work with the PowerBooks and along with the Snow White G3. And they also could be used with the G4. So there's one power supply. To my understanding, if I remember, these yo-yo power supplies were prone to failure. They tend to have died quite quickly, but there's one. There should be another one in here. And here's the other one. Right here. Make sure it's the same. And it is. Got the same connector on it. So we'll ravel those cords up. So there should be nothing else in here. Oh, one more thing. Like Steve Jobs, there is one more thing. Or should I say now Tim Cook. One more thing, and that is this. This is a cable that I don't even know if you can buy anymore. I don't know if you can find it. And if you do, it's going to be hard. I don't know if you can find this. This is an S-Video to composite adapter that works with the PowerBook. This, I believe, would have came shipped with the PowerBook, and what it goes is it plugs into the S-Video port on the back of the PowerBook, and you can plug it into a television via the yellow RCA cable. I don't know if you can buy these. I think these are rare to find. These are Apple OEM, I believe. And finding the Apple OEM ones, I'm sure, are probably hard to find, so this is definitely going to be a keeper, because I don't know if you can find these anymore. I'm sure they're probably hard to find, so it'll be a keeper. So, there should be nothing else in here. Is there going to be a one last thing? No one last thing. So, the bag, I don't know what I'm really going to do with it. I have a laptop bag, but I don't know. Maybe I'll clean it up and maybe use it. Maybe store some of the computers in it, because I'm running out of storage space to put all these laptops. So I'm probably going to have to get a shelf or a bookcase or something to put all these computers in. But anyway, that is the unboxing. Let's go ahead and open up the PowerBooks and we'll take a quick tour of the machine and see which one works. Okay, so we're back. I just put one of the PowerBooks up here. Got the power supplies there, the manual and everything here. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the PowerBook. This is the first generation PowerBook G4. This was the first G4 PowerBook that Apple released that was powered with the PowerPC G4 processor. And it was a big departure from the old G3 series. The G3 series was kind of 90-ish with its sleek black and plastic, and Apple decided to abandon all that in 2001 and release this. This is the titanium PowerBook, and it was named the titanium PowerBook because it's made out of titanium. And there's a good and a bad thing to that. The titanium really isn't made for durability. It's mostly made for the frame and whatnot. But so for the time when this came out in 2001, this was the fastest laptop you could buy. Just like the Power Mac down here, the Power Mac G4 was the fastest tower you could buy with the dual G4 chips. This is powered. The seller wasn't sure what the model numbers of these were. They're both the same model number, and he believes they're G4 500s, which means these are the top-of-the-line PowerBooks from 2001. 500 megahertz was the fastest you could get in 2001, and this was the top-of-the-line model. And I believe the top-of-the-line model had I believe the top-of-the-line model had 256 megs of RAM and a 20 gigabyte hard drive. I will double check on those specs, but I believe that is the correct specifications for these machines, if that's what they are. But anyway, let's go ahead and open this up. I'm not sure which one works yet, but we'll get there. Let's go ahead and open it up. And hold on here. There we go. That required two hands. That requires two hands to get that open. And this is the PowerBook. It is in actually very good shape. I mean, this is very nice. To fully understand that the PowerBook G4s, the titaniums, these things had a lot of, I wouldn't call a lot of problems. They had some design issues. And the most common issue, if you were to find these, the most common issue is right around the palm rest. Right around the palm rest, the paint would chip off, and it looked very nasty. Apple painted this generation of notebook. I don't know why. There's a little spot right there, but we'll clean that up. But that's a common thing with this, is finding the paint chipped off around the palm rest. This one is brand new. It looks like it's brand new. Again, on the top, these things usually get all scratched up. This one is in very good condition, and even on the back, I'll talk about that in a moment. And this is the keyboard. This actually is a very similar type keyboard that Apple used on the iBook G3. Also the clamshell G3 down there, and also with the Snow White G3, they used a very similar type keyboard. It's actually not. It's actually a transparent keyboard. It isn't backlit like my MacBook Pro here. It isn't backlit. Obviously, that feature didn't exist back then. So it isn't backlit, but it's actually a very good keyboard. You got some speakers here. You got your left and right speaker here, which actually I believe the sound system on this is better than the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is just a very scary thought to think about that. It's got Apple labeled this as a 15.2-inch mega wide screen. I guess back in 2001, let's see, this came out in early 2001. In early 2001, I would have been a first grader. And so, you know, from first grade, I don't remember a whole lot from first grade, but I guess back in 2001, having a 15.2-inch screen on a laptop was quite rare, if not impossible. So Apple made a big deal out of it, you know, 15.2-inch mega wide screen. It was also one of the thinnest notebooks. It comes in at just a little, I think it's just a little bit about an inch, I think is the exact thickness it comes in. I believe it's 5.2 pounds, I believe is the weight of that. This is the inside. Got a trackpad here. Trackpad's very similar to the normal trackpads that were on Macs at that time. PowerBook G4 branding right there. Your sleep light is actually right here. Something very interesting. The sleep light was right here. Let's take a tour. Let's close it up. And again, on the front here, we've got, just flip it around here, you've got the Apple. This was something Apple also made a big deal of. the Apple logo is right side up, because on the iBook clamshell over there, and on basically all Mac laptops in the 90s had the Apple logo the other way around. So when it opened, like this, the Apple logo was upside down. I don't know. There's a theory that the Apple logo was supposed to be that way because when the user opened the computer, the logo was facing them, so it made it look important. I don't know. I don't know the full story against that, but that's just what I've heard is the case with that as to why it was the other way around. But they flipped it the right side, and it's been that way ever since. So again, very good shape. There's just a little scratch. Is that a scratch right there? Yeah, just a little scratch. It's not too bad. There really isn't a lot of scratches on this top case, on this screen lid. There really isn't, which is very hard to come by. On the right side here, I'm going to have to... One of the reasons why I wish I had a tripod. So there's really nothing on the sides of the machine, just cooling vents. That's a security lock. If you wanted to lock the machine onto a desk, which Apple doesn't allow you to do with MacBooks anymore. They've taken that feature away. On the back here, you got your DC jack for power, IR sensor. That is if you had like a digital camera. And this is a long lost feature in Macs. This little thing right here. It is a port door. This actually, as a very cool little tidbit, the G4 PowerBook Titanium was the very last Apple laptop to feature a door that hides the ports. It's called a port door. And it was the very last Apple laptop to feature a port door, which kind of is a blessing because these things just ended up breaking off. This port door thing kind of goes back to the PowerBooks of the early 90s. The very first PowerBooks had a port door and they hid all these ports. And one of the problems is that they're a bit inconvenient. You had to constantly open them to plug something in. It was just kind of a mess. While it was well intended, I believe the port door was designed to hide the ports, so that way dust and debris doesn't get in there. And if you have kids, they don't shove things into the ports and ruin them. But I think the real reason behind the port door was to make a more streamlined product. But thankfully, Apple got rid of this idea. While it was well intended, these things were just a pain in the rear end because you had to constantly open them and close them, and they would break and fall off, and it was just a mess. So I'm kind of glad. It's a long lost feature, but I'm kind of glad it's gone because these things were just a complete nightmare. But anyway, on the back here for connectivity, we have a FireWire 400 port. We have Ethernet. I believe this is 10100, not gigabit. We have two USB ports. I believe those are 1.1. A air vent for cooling, VGA video out, S video out, and a dial-up modem. And you've also got a reset switch right there. On the bottom of this notebook, we have, the bottom even looks to be in pretty good shape. There's some sticker residue here, but I'll take some cleaner and get that off. That model number is M5884. I believe that model number correlates with the very first PowerBook G4 Titanium, which would have came out in 2001. Here's your battery. Let's see if this holds any charge. It does. It has 3 battery lights on it. It can be removed just by pulling this, and the battery pops out. Here's your battery bay, instructions how to replace the battery. And this is a genuine Apple PowerBook G4 battery. Let's see, copyright date on this, 2000. So this is a genuine Apple PowerBook battery, which, let's see, I don't see any signs of leakage, so that's good. You really can't buy genuine batteries for these anymore. You'd have to go with third-party batteries, unfortunately. The seller did say one of the machines, the battery was holding its charge, which was the working machine. So hopefully this is the working machine right out of the gate. There's a little bit of paint chipping off right there. But again, that's not too bad. Again, this is in very good shape. Again, those hinges, that's something that took me by surprise. Usually the paint is all chipped off these edges, but they're not. So that's good. And also on the front here, we also have a slot loading DVD drive. This is just a CD DVD drive. There's a little bit of, is that cracking or what is that? Not sure what that is, but that's not too bad. It looks like there's something there, but we'll see if that comes off. That's not too bad. It's a slot load DVD drive. It's a big upgrade from the original G3 series. We had that tray that came out on the side, and it just, you know, so they really streamed it up. They put it in the front. The very last models of the, well, it's technically called the TiBook. The last models of the TiBook did have a slot loading super drive in them, so you could burn CDs and DVDs if you wanted to, but that was only available on the last model of this came out, which upgraded to a 1 gigahertz processor. So that is the tour of the machine. Design flaws. These things have had some little minor mishaps. The paint chipping issue, that was an issue. One problem also with the hinges, there was a lot of issues related to the hinge area, and it was related to these hinges. These hinges here, I mean, you know, they look like, you know, they're the best invention in the world, but these hinges, they have a tendency to split apart. And to replace these hinges, it is a complete pain in the rear end because you have to take the display completely off the machine because the hinge follows up partly into the screen. So you have to take it off, and it's a nightmare to do. Apple actually fixed this problem in a later PowerBook. I think it was the 667 megahertz model where they modified the hinges ever so slightly to give them a little bit more of support. There really isn't a whole lot of support with these hinges, and they were very known for failing and breaking and falling apart, and that was a big issue with this PowerBook. I think that was one of the biggest issues with the PowerBook was its hinge issue. But again, Apple fixed that in a later revision. I think it was the 667 model that they modified it ever so slightly. One thing I forgot to show here, we have a PCI card slot right here with the eject button, fans, and the headphone jack. This PowerBook can accept an airport card. The airport card sits underneath that PCI card slot on the logic board. Speaking about the airport card, that was another problem with the TiBook, is because of the use of titanium in the body and in the screen lid, these things had a tendency to have very poor airport range. Because of the use of titanium in the frame and also in the screen bezel, I believe the antennas are up here in the screen. Because of the use of titanium, it would kind of react with the metal and cause very poor airport range. And the only way to get around it, there's two ways, is either to plug it in to Ethernet, or you have to use an external Wi-Fi card that runs off the USB bus, or if you could find a PC card slot, or find a PC card that would work with the Mac, then you'd have to use that to get around it. The airport was an issue, and Apple really couldn't do a whole lot about it. It was the metal, and titanium and Wi-Fi antennas don't mix. And so Apple learned that the hard way. There was a lot of complaining about the airport. I don't think either one of these have an airport card, but I do know for a fact it takes the exact same airport card as PowerMac. So I'll have to order another one, but that's not a problem. They're relatively cheap. That is pretty much it on the PowerBook. This one is pretty much the same as well. I opened this one, and again, it's in very good shape here. Some dust on the screen here, but again, it's in very good shape. Some stuff right there, but you know, I'll wipe it down a bit. It's the exact same thing. Very good shape, no paint chipping off the edges. Angle the light down a bit. Again, no paint chipping off. Again, it's a common problem. It's in very good shape. Again, these things look like they were relatively well taken care of. Again, port door not broken, all the same ports. Again, it's basically the exact same machine. And again, no chipping. Now, why did I buy this knowing that one of them doesn't work? Well, here's the thing. To get two of these is quite good. But I'm going to consider this as a project. I think this is the one that doesn't work. And again, it's got that same issue right here. Again, you know, I'm going to consider this as a project. Whatever one doesn't work, and I'm thinking it's this one because I believe in the listing the seller said the battery was holding a charge on the one that worked. And this one has a battery that's holding a charge by the light, so this might be the one that works. Take it, and I'm going to take it apart and see what's going on with it. The seller believes it's just a loose connection with the DC board, and that might be true. I mean, if the battery's not holding a charge and there's no power in it, then obviously it won't power up. But one thing we can do, there's a couple of different things we can do. Now, the seller did say, now, I asked the seller a question on this item before I placed a bid, and they said that there was no action at all when power was plugged in. So that could be a problem with the DC jack, could be a power supply problem, or it could be something worse, such as a internal problem with the logic board. We have to think these machines are about 14 years old, and when they start getting up there in age, when they start becoming a senior, you really have to start thinking about internal issues. So again, I'm not going to be totally pissed if this machine or whatever one doesn't work. I'm not going to be totally pissed if it doesn't work and I can't get it fixed, because I'll just have another display machine, kind of like the iBook over there. I'll have a little display piece. But I could also use it for parts for the working unit. So, you know, I'll have another machine here for case parts and whatnot. But I'm going to try to get it working. We'll experiment with it. Actually, you'll get to see that in the video. We'll experiment with it and see what we've got. So, I'm going to say this is the working unit. So, let's go ahead and prove my theory right. Let's angle the light again. Let's go ahead and see if we can prove my theory right. We're going to go ahead and power this up. We'll run it off battery. Actually, we won't run it off battery. We'll let the battery charge. So first off, we'll plug it in. I'll just grab a power supply here, and we'll plug it in here. We'll be kind. We'll let it power up off power here. Got our yo-yo power supply, just like that. This power supply also doesn't have an indicator light on it like the power supply for the iBook does. This is the one for the iBook G4. You can see they are technically the exact same connector, so you could technically use, in fact, we'll find that out right now. This is the power supply that goes to the iBook. We'll find that out right now. I'm almost certain you could use these power bricks with this generation of machine. And yes, you can. We get a light. That's good. That's good news. And we get a light. That's good news. It was only this power supply. It was these white power supplies that had that light on it. And this doesn't have it. But you can use this power supply with this generation. It's basically the exact same power supply. The only difference is it's a yo-yo shape and it doesn't have the light. So I'll show you here. When you plug it in, you don't get no light because it doesn't have one. That's just a cool little feature. Actually, that's one thing we can do to test the PowerBook over here, to test the one that doesn't work. But anyway, let's see. We had action from that one, so this one might be the one that works. Let's see. Moment of truth. Here we go. So this looks like it's the working unit. Now, in the picture in the listing, it showed this machine booted up into Mac OS 9, which is the default OS. Here we go, booting into 9. Should be 9.2, I believe. I'm listening for hard drive noise. I don't hear any. Hard drive sounds pretty good. Spinning wheel of death. It's nice. Oh, no, it's not. It's booted up into Mac OS 10. Huh. This is interesting. Maybe this is a dual boot machine. Let's see. This would be an early version of Mac OS 10. Because the early versions of Mac OS 10 had the Happy Mac. And I believe in OS 10 Jaguar 10.2 they changed it to the Apple logo. So maybe this is a dual boot machine. How do you like that? It's booting into OS 10 because the listing showed it booted into OS 9, so maybe this is a dual boot machine. Huh, that's nice. I believe this has got to be 10.1, which would be Puma. Because I believe in Jaguar in 10.2 they switched it to the Apple logo on boot up. I believe is when they fixed it. Again, really no hard drive noise either. It's quite nice. Let's see, will it continue to boot? So this is obviously the functioning unit. I believe the hard drive in here is a 20 gig, but I guess we'll confirm that. Or disconfirm that, I guess. Here we go. Oh, this was a fresh load. Okay. Okay, this is a fresh load of OS 10. How do you like that? Again, this is an old version. I'm actually going to upgrade this to Tiger, which is version 10.4, which is the highest it can hold. This is a fresh load of OS 10. Nice. I don't know if it's a dual boot machine or not. I don't know. Nice. Let's go ahead and do setup here. We live in the United States. Continue. This has got to be version 10.1. Yes, it's either 10.0 or 10.1, one or the other. Because I believe in 10.2 is when they changed the startup to the Apple logo. Oops. First name. But this came as a shock. I mean, the listing showed it booted up into OS 9. So, maybe this is a dual boot machine. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Let's see. Let's get rid of this. The old spinning wheel of death before it was changed. Let's see, you got your dock down here. Here's your battery meter. The battery meter used to be down here. I forgot about that. In the early versions, it used to be down there. This has got to be 10.0. Let's take a look. (10.0), 10.03. So this is the very first version of Mac OS 10. It is version 10.0, which was a codename Cheetah. 256 megabytes of memory with a G4. This might be the original OS that was on this machine. Oh no, it is a dual boot machine. There you go. Desktop Mac OS 9. So this indeed is a dual boot machine. I'm actually going to be upgrading this to Tiger. I mean, it's you can't do anything on 10.0, but at least it's here. You know, look at that old Finder icon. It's a little bit different. Of course, this Finder icon looks 150 gazillion times better than that ugly thing, but that's another rant for another video. Yeah, this is the very first version of OS 10. This is what OS 10 used to look like. Again, it's so useless on 10.0 Cheetah. I mean, what are you doing with 10.0? Nothing, really. The battery meter used to be down here, which was just so weird. This is the dock. So you really didn't have a whole lot of. I don't think there's an airport card in here usually. Let's see here. See if we can find any evidence of networking in here. Let's see. The old system preferences. I haven't seen this in quite a long time. Loading network. Okay, it doesn't see an airport card, so there is no airport card in this, as I kind of figured. So I will have to buy a new airport card. Again, look at how the OS has changed. It's just interesting. So this is the one that works, obviously. This is a dual boot machine based on OS 9. I don't really need to boot up into OS 9 here, but there's really no point. But yeah, I'm going to actually repartition. I don't know if I'm going to keep OS 9 on it or not, because I have OS 9 running as a dual boot on the Power Mac, so I don't really need OS 9 on this. So I'm probably just going to reformat the entire hard drive and install Tiger. So that's probably what I'm going to do. So this is the working machine. Everything seems to be functional, which is good. But yeah, I didn't expect that. It's a dual boot machine. So let's go ahead and let's just shut it down. Just shut her down. And we'll go ahead and see if we can get this. This obviously is the non-working one. Let's see if we can get this non-working one working. Let's see if we can do a little experimentation with it here before we go. Okay, so I have moved the non-functioning. I've moved the functioning PowerBook over here, and I put the non-functioning unit in its place. Let's see what happens when we plug in power. Let's see what we get. Now, like I said, the seller believes it's a loose connection somewhere. We also have to think about internal issues. I'm just using the same power supply. But we also have to think of other things as well. Okay, no action from that one. We know this is a functioning power supply. Let's try this. As I showed with the other machine, the later PowerBooks the later power supplies would work for these older machines. Let's see if we get any action. We get a light, so that might be good news. But it only goes to orange. It doesn't stay green. It doesn't go to green. Let's see here. No, no action. So the board's receiving power, it looks like. This battery might be dead. Let's see. On this side. No. Let's try swapping batteries. I wonder if... One way we can determine, since we know the board seems to be getting power, it looks like, one thing we can do, and this will decide it all, and this is how we're going to end the video. This will decide it all. One thing we can do, swap out the battery. Put it on the right way. Oh, it'd be dangerous if I had a brain, wouldn't I? But anyway, this obviously is holding some kind of a charge, it seems like. Here we go. Let's see, this is for all the marbles here. What have we got? No action. No action. So it looks like this one is probably dead, which is a little bit of a shame because I really wanted to see if I could get this working, but I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, there's some blue stuff here. I wonder if that might have something to do with it. But anyway, that's kind of a shame that the second one doesn't work. But again, the seller listed that it didn't work. No action. So, hey, I'll have this one for parts for the working unit, which is good. It's kind of upsetting that it doesn't work. I was kind of hoping it would be like an AC connection issue and I could just take it apart and just resolder it. But if it's not even doing anything with a battery in it that is proven to be functional, then it's definitely got some power issues. So it's probably got a board issue. And again, you know, it was listed that it didn't work, this one. So, you know, it's not, you know, I'm not mad about it because it was listed that way. But there's not really a whole lot I can do with it. I'm take it apart and see what I can find, but at least I'll have the second one for parts for the functioning unit at least. But anyway, so that's what I've got. 2 PowerBook G4 Titaniums. These are the original models, 500 megahertz. They're, at least this one, I'm assuming 500 megahertz, but I can't get it to do anything. But again, at least I'll have this one as a display piece and even for parts for this one if it needs it. So at least that's good. And I got a second power supply to go along with it. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to end the video here. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from the Techies World, hit that little subscribe button down there. And I'll catch you later with the next tech video. So thank you for watching.
About the things we used to have, bed that we used to share, memories we used to grab. Dreaming about the days I had with you, and all the times you called me just to say, baby, I miss you. Thinking if there's a way to change the past tomorrow.